The Rings of Power Season 2, Episode 4, sees Elrond and Galadriel depart for Eregion, and the ending of Eldest compels Galadriel to abandon their company to fight Adar's army of orcs. This may appear to be a noble sacrifice on Galadriel's behalf, but Elrond observes something odd about her decision. He informs the other elves that she will not stay behind to save them. Elrond believes Galadriel is more concerned with protecting her ring of power, which she gives him before facing the orc army. Whatever Galadriel's plans are, she puts up a strong battle against the orcs, who attack her. But, while they'd gladly kill her, their master appears to have other ideas for the Rings of Power's protagonist. After falling off her horse, Galadriel is reunited with Adar, the villain from the Rings of Power. Despite almost shooting him with a scorching arrow, Adar appears glad to meet Galadriel. "A star shines on the hour of our meeting," he informs her. This may be baffling to viewers, but it foreshadows an alliance between the two characters in the Rings of Power Season 2. The Rings of Power Season 2, Episode 4 ending teasers Galadriel and Adar team up. The elves believe Galadriel is giving her life at the end of the Rings of Power Season 2, Episode 4, yet the conclusion implies an alternative path for her character. Adar's greeting isn't as harsh as you might expect, especially given the circumstances of their first encounter in the Rings of Power Season 1. Galadriel is unlikely to warm up to the villain right away, yet he approaches her in a pleasant manner. And, based on the Rings of Power Season 2 trailer, we know the two will form an alliance. The interaction between Adar and Galadriel in Eldest is the first step toward this goal, but Galadriel may need some time to warm up to the idea of working together. In the Rings of Power Season 2 trailer, Adar reminds Galadriel that they have a common enemy. Galadriel's eagerness to repair her mistakes with Sauron may force her to agree to Adar's plea. This would be the second time a Rings of Power villain has used Galadriel to achieve her ambitions. The clip also shows Galadriel and Adar standing before an army, implying that they would work together in future episodes. Galadriel's collaboration with Adar will be her second big mistake in the Rings of Power. If Galadriel does pair up with Adar, it will most likely be her second major blunder in the Rings of Power. The first, of course, is succumbing to Sauron's trickery. Galadriel is overly trusting of Halbrand in the Rings of Power Season 1, and she continues to play into his hands in Season 2. Despite her understanding that Halbrand is Sauron, Galadriel continues to use the 3 rings he creates with Celebrimbor. The series makes it clear that these rings have already corrupted her mind, as well as the minds of the other elves. While Galadriel and Adar share an enemy, Adar is still a villain with his own agenda. While Galadriel and Adar share an enemy, Adar is still a villain with his own agenda. The ending of Rings of Power Season 1 is more than enough to prove that Adar cannot be trusted. Unless Galadriel has a strategy up her sleeve, dealing with him may backfire for her and her people. Adar will prioritize the orcs' needs first, and the short-term benefits of a collaboration are unlikely to outweigh the long-term consequences of pursuing Adar's ambitions. In the Rings of Power Season 2, how Sauron manipulates Galadriel and Adar. Sauron is a master manipulator in J.R.R. Tolkien's novels, so it's only natural that he bends various characters to his will during the Rings of Power Season 2. The villain's impact over Galadriel is clear from the start of this adventure. Halbrand gains Galadriel's trust in the Rings of Power Season 1, allowing him to wriggle his way into her thoughts before creating the rings. The High King doubts Galadriel's ability to face him on her own, and the betrayal burns her so much that she is determined to make amends. This directly influences her decision to partner up with Adar. Of course, Sauron is also controlling Galadriel via her Ring of Power, as Elrond already suspects. Elrond refuses to believe Galadriel's actions based on the ring, but she appears to recognize its influence. This isn't enough to keep her from wearing it or risking her life to save it. However, her visions during the Rings of Power Season 2's 3-episode opening imply that Sauron may manipulate her mind even when he is not present. This is concerning and could be detrimental to her later in the series. Sauron manipulates Adar in a less direct manner, making it impossible to predict what his objectives are for the elf. The first season of the Rings of Power revealed that the two antagonists are at odds. Their evil blood is most likely why Sauron appears at Adar's camp disguised as Halbrand in the Rings of Power Season 2, Episode 1. He is tricking Adar's mind by informing him that Sauron still exists. To what aim is uncertain, although Sauron is unlikely to want Adar in the Southlands, which is where he plans to control Middle-earth. Sauron may even appreciate Adar's partnership with Galadriel, as it allows him to defeat 2 of his adversaries in one fell stroke. They might even destroy each other, saving Sauron the trouble of attacking them. This type of deception has historically given the evil the upper hand in Middle-earth, and the characters are capitalizing on it in Season 2 of the Rings of Power.